Lee is travelling to Balina in the west of Ireland, where the Farrell family lived and his granddad Joe was brought up.
I think the fact that Delia, my great-grandmother, would leave Grandad Joe as a baby or a small child in Balina and then go off to Canada, as a dad myself, that, you know, it does feel a bit cold. I'm trying not to be too harsh on the woman because I don't know why that happened. If it's possible, I'd like to find out why she did it. It's quite strange to be going to Balina because it's a place that I've heard about throughout my life, but never visited. This is more of a town than I was expecting, but it's a very nice town.
To work out the chain of events that led to his granddad Joe being left by his mother to grow up in Balina with his grandparents, Lee is meeting social historian Dr. Elaine Farrell at the local archives.
Welcome to my library.
Thank you very much.
Census of Ireland, 1911. Thomas Farrell, my great-great-granddad. Age 60. Occupation, I think that says labourer.
Yeah.
Mary Farrell, wife. Delia Kingsley, daughter. She was 22. And we've got Matthew Felix Kingsley. And he is the grandson. OK, this is interesting. He's 1 year old, and that's in 1911, a year after my grandfather was born. Are you telling me that my granddad Joe changed his name?
Matthew Felix Kingsley must have been his original name. So the date, the year of birth matches up. The name of his mother, you know, he's the child of Delia Kingsley.
Wow. Yeah. He never, ever once said this, ever.
Maybe he didn't know.
Because there's no birth certificate. We've got no birth certificate of him.
There's no birth certificate. Or it can't be located.
Can't be found.
Yeah.
So he's born in Southport as Matthew Felix, and then he comes here a year later. He's still called Matthew Felix, because that's what it says on this census. But then he becomes Joe Kingsley.
Yeah, so...
When did that happen?
We know by the time he's a teenager, when he's in school, that he's known as Joseph Francis Kingsley. Maybe it was his grandparents, actually, who changed his name.
So, one of the things that stands out here is Delia Kingsley, married for 2 years. I think we assumed it was possibly a one-night stand.
There's no evidence that Delia was actually married.
But she doesn't want to admit this on the census?
Yeah.
Or perhaps even to her own family?
Yeah, I would imagine her family are aware of the situation and that Thomas Farrell just wants to present her as being married.
That's what they'll be telling friends and people as well?
And neighbours, yeah.
There was a huge stigma attached to having a child out of wedlock in 1911. For a woman with an illegitimate child like Delia, it would be hard to find a job or get married.
We know Delia goes to Canada, but we don't know when. I don't know why, you know. That's the mystery bit.
So take a look at this. It might give you some more clues.
OK, so this is some sort of booking details for a boat. So we've got Delia Farrell, top of the list. So that's interesting because she's on the passenger list as Delia Farrell, not Delia Kingsley.
So she's presenting herself now in the passenger list as being unmarried.
Wonder why that would be. I suppose just because symbolising I'm starting a new life and...
Yeah.
Destination, Montreal. This doesn't tell us the date that she actually went, though.
September 1911.
Ah, so she left him when he was just over a year?
Yeah, so he was about a year and a half.
What does this... I can't really read it, but what does this column...
So this information here would be how did a person pay for their
For the ticket. Bonus allowed. Somebody Francis and gang. Mrs. Francis and gang?
So it says there, bonus allowed Mrs. Francis. So this indicates that her passage was paid by a Mrs. Francis.
OK, who's Mrs. Francis?
So this document might give you some more clues.
OK, so this is the Women's Domestic Guild of Canada. Mrs. E. Francis in Montreal. This feels like almost like an advertising brochure to let people know that we can give you domestic help or something?
Mm-hmm. The Domestic Guild then was essentially like a recruitment agency.
Oh, OK. Oh, OK. So her ticket was paid by a recruitment agency in Canada?
They would have advertised in local newspapers. So it's likely that your great-grandmother, Delia, maybe saw one of these advertisements.
We still don't know whether Thomas Farrow's saying, you've got to start bringing some money in, you're going to have to go to Canada and earn some money and send it back. Or is he saying, we can't keep this lie up that you're married to this mystery man in England. I think it's time you just went away. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, obviously, there's a limit to what you can know, right?
Yeah, we don't know whether it was your great-grandmother Delia who wanted to go to Canada, or was it actually her father, Thomas, or her mother, Mary, who were encouraging her to go or kind of pushing her to go. But it must have been a very difficult situation for both your granddad, Joe, and for his mother, Delia, you know, to be separated.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, isn't it? Because he's one, so he doesn't have any idea of why his mum's just vanished.
But from her perspective, it must have been extremely heartbreaking. You know, she's been with this baby for the first year of his life.
And then she's got to go.
Hmm.
Wow. I started off thinking, it's quite cold to leave your baby. Mm. Then I thought, sounds like she needed to go. She needed to work. She might have been sent by Thomas, her dad.
It wouldn't even be that unusual in Ireland at that time for a child to be kind of reared as another child of grandparents.
So it would be nice to find out more about where Grandad Joe was brought up.
So we know from the census that the family were actually living at 6 Hill Street in Balina.
I think I have more sympathy for Delia now. I know a bit more about perhaps what led to it. What else could she do? It's easy for us nowadays, 100 years later, to judge that as a woman handing her baby over, like perhaps I've been doing and we've all been doing in our family a bit, but actually, perhaps it was more socially acceptable and normal to hand your baby over to the grandparents rather than be seen as a single mum, which was totally unacceptable.